Tidehunter against Razor is just not a very good lane. So you could run Tidehunter here for Mavis on 5 and have Natsumi pick something else up that can play with that minus armor on the Gush. And that can give them a little bit more to play with. I mean, you just have a straightforward combo with Shadow Demon. You know, Blood Right's going to be set up. You can run down to Razor if he's not careful. Sure, it's still a melee hero up against Razor, but Static Link's laning cooldowns are pretty darn long, right? It's not like you'll always be able to Static Link when the Bloodseeker's looking to jump in, and that can be a bit risky for Lilgun. So we'll see how much Polaris can get out there for force. I mean, there's still the potential that Natsumi runs a pause 1 Bloodseeker. I'm not seeing the necessity for it. I feel like the offlane Bloodseeker with a Shadow Demon is just a lot better, and you just dodge the Tide lane.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. I mean, I don't think there's any necessity for it, and well, we've seen plenty of support Tidehunter do great work. I mean, quite frankly, Force, I mean, I do think the Aghanim Scepter did have a nice impact on that game last game around, but, you know, considering how dominant they were, it just felt unnecessary at some stage. So I suppose just run the support Tide. You know what he does, John. You might buy a Blink in the future. You blink, you Ravage. That's your job as the Tidehunter. It's not rocket science. Or even before the Blink, naturally, you can still press the R button, which is something many pub Tide players don't understand. Jonathan, you can still use Ravage without Blink tag. Still, final pickups to come, or either final banouts, is Lilgun is still focusing on those position 1 bans. One more to go here. What else don't you want to see Natsumi playing?
I mean, I do like the PA ban. I mean, even if it's a PA into Razor, you tend to just jump onto the Razor after Static Links pop. I like the TB ban as well. That would work really well with a Tide lane. Just a lot of slows, reflection, and the Metamorphosis can kind of be a good early laning spike for you to look to play aggressive. So they take out some big heroes that Polaris could run. Polaris, for their part, are taking care of some loose ends. Taking out the OD. I think they're starting to suspect the Spirit Breakers to support here. They might be able to give 11 something else on the off lane. So just ensuring that Natsumi doesn't have something hard to play against. Because, let's face it, OD is just a nuisance to play against. Even if you can handle it, that hero is just painful. It's just so annoying. It's a freaking meteor hammer. Still, I think for Polaris, what they could take in safe lane, they have a lot of options. There is good jump potential from Spirit Breaker and Quap. Just something like a Drow is not very well protected. I'd say a Troll might be alright. Again, it's still something to consider up against a Razor. It's still pretty tough, but down the line, you don't really care. I think as long as you've got someone else to start the fights, Troll can just come in after seeing Static Link and clean everyone up. So could be an option for Polaris if they want to. We've seen some Trolls popping out here and there. I think it's still a very solid win condition for Polaris to have, because the Bloodseeker's not going to eat too much farm if the lane goes well, and the Ember, as we've seen from Lelouch, he does like to play active, so something like the Troll could work out well. And Lilgun do go into the Wraith King, so it does look like... Yeah, Spirit Breaker support, safe lane Wraith King. They're going to run the Razor off, so now they're dodging the Bloodseeker Razor matchup, which is still not too bad. I'm wondering how Polaris adjusts. Like, will they just give Natsumi now the Bloodseeker? They can react in that way, get something else on the off lane if they want to really pressure Wraith King, or just run the Tidehunter off lane and pick a different support to close out. It does go back to the issue of a Bloodseeker 1, though, which just doesn't feel great, but if it works, it works.
You have all the options though, right? Like you could go like pos 1 Dusa here, I guess. It's a bit slow, but I'm sure Natsumi could make it work. You've got options like the PL to come out if Natsumi wanted to go down that route, but it'd be interesting to see what Polaris does end up going for here to kind of combat what Lilgun's running. Against the Razor, it's always a bit of a hard task. And I do agree with your sentiment about the pos 1 Bloodseeker, and they do go down the Medusa route. I mean, I feel like you were pretty limited in options. You just go down the Medusa, pretty safe. You know what to do, John. You get through the laning stage, you go to the triangle, you farm up some stacks, and you come out bigger than the other position 1. I mean, that's just generally how the Dusa gameplay goes. What is it, Jonathan?
They've switched it up. 11's playing the Quap, Sanctity's taking the Razor, 43's in the safe lane Wraith King. So we do have the off-lane Quap, as you mentioned, that lane swap coming out, Mike. Quap versus Dusa, not the worst. Razor versus Ember is a little bit wonkier, but it's not like it's completely bad for Ember. You could kind of play with, say, Chains. So if the Razor does want to commit to a chase, Chains, run out, you can still be fine. Interesting way of closing out for Lilgun. They flex it pretty hard. We do have Mavis playing the Bloodseeker as well, so we are getting the Force Tidehunter and the Bloodseeker on support, which we don't see outside of mainly Roger playing that in SMG, right? Like, that's his key hero on the support. Let's see if Polaris can get that combination out. I do like that notion, though, like Bloodseeker Medusa lane.
Yeah.
Again, you know me, I like my Blood Rage, I think it's called, right? Like the Bloodseeker amp. Amping up Medusa sounds super fun. We just never see that, but it sounds fun. Imagine how much damage that snake does on the further jumps. That is a lot of damage.
I suppose so, Jonathan. I suppose I do like how you want to see these combinations all the time. The pro players, they won't run it for you, John. Yeah, we know they're listening as well. They're out there somewhere listening to these two idiot casters talking about Blood Rage and Mystic Snake. Oh. Anyway, I'll ask you the hard question before we do get into game number 2, John. I mean, you can see the drafts. I'd say Lilgun have a draft that is definitely easier to execute than game 1's draft was. Is it good enough, though, against Polaris Esports to force us to a game number 3?
I think it is. I think it's good enough to force it, but I think Polaris has been playing too clean. They've got a really strong teamfight combination still on hand. Ravage with a Stone Gaze with a Blood Right on top. It's not as clear cut as, say, Ravage Arena, but it's still really strong. Like, the Blood Right silence will kick in with a Ravage. The Stone Gaze is going to proc because you're holding them back while you're facing the Medusa if you time it right. And you can kind of get from there. For Lilgun, what they need to do is to be really more aggressive in the laning. They've got heroes that don't need too much farm. Even the Raid King is arguably not a very farm-heavy hero. All you're looking for is really Armlet to show up, and then maybe your Desolator, then you just run and gun, look for Roshan, look for the push afterwards. And that's something that Polaris might not be able to handle too well, because you have a slower core in the Medusa. Like, Spectre's actually a super fast core. Natsumi's Medusa is going to be on a slower pace. We're not expecting this hero to join the early fights, and think that's going to give Polaris a much weaker early to mid game here in comparison to game 1.
No, I'd certainly agree on that. I think Natsumi's going to have to farm pretty darn quick in this game. Unlike last game where he just kind of went into the Aghanim Scepter and suddenly he was able to just join the team fights. Oh, Ace 12. It's very deep there to try and place that Sentry Ward, and does manage to get away with it. Problem is, it was scouted out. So Polaris is going to be able to surely deny off that Sentry Ward before it does block the camp. For now, however, they are going to leave. It looks like they don't want to reveal the fact that they've dropped the Sentry themselves. But just in case Lilgun want to try and force a fight again before that 1 minute mark comes in. I think, again, like game 1, if you're Polaris, you're not really looking for a level 1 team fight. You just haven't got the draft for it. You'd much rather just stay away from Lilgun right now. And they'll see them at the top side of the bounty runes. Mavis, he will not bother them. Bot side, Xavius, he's able to secure his own, so a 2-for-2 trade. Nice even start here for either side. And while we're around here, John, we'll talk about the bot lane. You've got 4-2-3 there, of course, with Ace 12. Going to be against Xavius on that Shadow Demon, and you've got Force once again on the Tidehunter. Very curious to see what kind of itemization Force goes for this time around on the Tide, but I've got to say, it does feel like another pretty easy lane for it.
Yeah, it's a melee hero matchup for Tide. If it was a Razor lane, you would be saying differently, but it's still a Raid King lane. You can just run up, Anchor Smash, have a good time. Look at Ace 12 copying so much damage from Xavius' block. He's not winning that trade.
No, he certainly is not. Ace 12 forced to just run the hell out of there. Classic Warcraft 3 block coming in from Xavius. You love to see it. As I said, John, I think this bot lane is not going to be very fun for 4-2-3 or Ace 12. So we'll have a look at the other lanes as well while we have a chance. Of course, mid lane, Lelouch on the Ember, going to be against Sanctity on that mid Razor. This time around, there's no way Sanctity does not win out this laning stage. I mean, if he loses this, it feels like they're just going to get run over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's an outright win for a Razor lane, to be fair. I feel like the Ember has enough to kind of hold back, to kind of trade hits, still clear out the wave, even without right-click. You can depend on the Flame Guard and just kind of stand your ground. It is a lot easier to manage for a Razor, though. So you should be able to just static link, get your farm, clear out the creep wave with the Plasma Field, and kind of get running from there. Lelouch is still in a pretty decent position from the first wave, though, so I wouldn't say things are all too bad for him yet. And we have to see a lot more coming through from Sanctity. Because it is a Razor mid, I don't think you can really expect Spirit Breaker rotations out, which is where maybe some of that early aggression loses its mark. because you just don't have those mid rotations that you want to push off. But as long as you are farming better, you should feel pretty good. Razor, again, by the time he hits 6, maybe gets Falcon Blade, he's going to feel a lot stronger just with those early items up.
He's already trying to assert his dominance now in that mid lane. Lelouch not able to get too close to that creep wave, but somehow pretty even in terms of CS, at least for now. Of course, top lane, Natsumi and Mavis against Kishka and 11. And Natsumi certainly having a worse time than he did last game around. I mean, he's only on 6 CS. In fact, he's being chased down right now. 11's going to try and get the job done. Natsumi, he does have the mana shield, so they can try to turn and get some damage back out onto 11, as the Blood Rite is going to fly in from Mavis. But it's only level 1. Still a lot of damage here from Mavis, but 11 does have the blink up. It has no mana now. Instead, they will turn back in onto the Bloodseeker. The salve will eventually come in from Kishka, so both cores end up getting out that top lane. I've got to say, Natsumi has been left on very low HP, and it looks like Mavis does not have a salve available for this Medusa. Natsumi going to have to do it the old-fashioned way with the Tango, but not going to feel very good for him.
Good aggression coming out from Lilgun. Doesn't line him up for the kill, but that laning pressure is what was lacking from the first game. Just weren't getting as much onto Natsumi, and he's still not safe here.
Yeah, they make the jump in again. Blood Rite, it will connect onto the breakup, but it won't matter as 11. He's able to pick up the kill, and now they're onto Mavis. Great aggression here from Lilgun. They will not be able to get the secondary kill into the Bloodseeker, but certainly they got the most important kill on the map right now. They take down Natsumi. You couldn't really ask for too much more.
No, that's exactly what they need. We needed to see them be really aggressive with a Clop Spirit Breaker. The change up in the lane is certainly lining up. Dusa doesn't quite have the jungle built up. It's really early to expect that from Blood to start on. So Natsumi's going to have to just work the lane as best as possible, get as much farm as he can. You have to kind of worry yourself here on Lilgun if you do drop too low. Without regen, you are making the Bloodseeker have a really good time, but Mavis still at level 2 means he can't really follow through that. Charge down mid though, but not going to be for long, as it is just a secured of water runes, and Lelouch is denied his top up. Doesn't have his bottle up anyway, so it's not the biggest loss in the world, but it is playing into Sanctity, dominating this mid lane so far.
Oh, Sanctity's doing a great job. Just keeping up that aggression every chance he gets. Lelouch doing a pretty decent job himself. I mean, considering the circumstances, is still at 15-0 in terms of CS. So you can't complain too much if you're Lelouch here. He's able to find some light at the end of the tunnel. Spot lane. As expected, John looks like Force. He's been dominating the bot lane. Right? Just no contest here for the Tide. 4-2-3 is doing a decent enough job of farming and is ahead of Natsumi, but he's again unable to really contest the Tide, and well, quite frankly, neither is Ace 12. They just can't do anything about it.
You're just gonna have to let Forrest do what he wants, and with all that space again, look at Save, he's building up that triangle once more. Just no wards, no sentries to block, no vision here from Lilgun. So even with a strong start for their top lane, there is a recovery plan set in place for Natsumi, and even for Forrest if he wants that initial farm for himself. Lilgun's gonna have to scout that out later on, clear it out themselves if possible, because that is still like the comeback potential for Polaris. They just need to stick in that jungle, need to protect it. And if we're judging Lilgun from how they played in Game 1, they just weren't aggressive enough on those resources on the map.
I wonder if they even have the ability to try and take those stacks. I mean, with this kind of draft, like, if you're allowed to freely take them as a few heroes, then yeah, sure, but
Radiant's bottom tower
I don't know how you're going to sneak them away here from Polaris. I suppose we'll have to wait and see as the time does go on. You can see Xavius, he has no fear of that happening. He just keeps going back to stack up more. Every good support does. I believe a quad stack on each side. If he does get it. Beautiful. We actually missed the other one, but that was a sentry, so he didn't really miss. Was blocked by Ace 12. And now you've got the information there as Lilgun. So you know that the stacks have been made. It's just a matter of how they're going to infiltrate that triangle and steal it away from Polaris without them really noticing. In fact, hold that thought, because they are going to make the jump in onto 4 spot lane. And Sanctity making a very nice rotation to finally deal with this Tide Hunter. And in the meantime, Lelouch, he's not even in the mid lane. He's been farming those stacks up, trying to get them before they get taken away. But he doesn't have the HP pool to really get it done. And that means Sanctity, well, he's going to come in and clean up those big creeps.
They managed to clean up a couple. They do get the kill on Mavis up top. Well, if that breaks out, just because Polaris is playing really passive, so they don't have the follow-up jumps in, the loop is too low. I think you are seeing Lilgun play a lot more aggressive, which is what they need. They're starting to get some momentum lined up their way. Level 6 up on 11 has the ability to skill up the Sonic Wave if he wants to. Natsumi's lane is now pretty darn dead. Well, again, within 1 CS of the Wraith King, so it's not all doom and gloom, but not quite the pace you want for the Deuce here.
Very slow start for Natsumi, but that's great news for Lilgun. A much better start here for the Wraith King, and well, even as just the hero matchup, John, like you've got those Wraiths available rather than the Skeletons here from 4-2-3, and they do allow you to farm up that jungle a lot faster than, say, a Medusa who just needs that initial farm to get going in the jungle. So definitely great news here for the Radiant. Stacks are still happening here from Xavius, but as we know, side of Lilgun, they are very all aware that those Ancients have been stacked, so they'll eventually try to make their way over, I'm sure. Meantime, Mavis top lane's been targeted again here by 11, and our Spirit Breaker, Kishka, gonna just charge in with the Blood right out. It will not really connect either. So 11 goes back in with the Scream out, and Mavis will eventually just die to the Shadow Poison. So now they want Natsumi. The help is there, though. Lelouch gonna move in with the chains out. They do at least find a nice trade. 11 just going a bit too far, and Lelouch making his first move of the game on the Ember.
They do manage to get some good punishment support for the core on that top lane trade. Pretty big win for the side of Polaris, keeping Natsumi alive as well. I think we are seeing a bit of the issue of the Pause 5 Bloodseeker. Mavis just doesn't have any natural combos with the Deuce up top beyond, again, Blood Rage. I mean, Stone Gaze plus Blood Right is nice, but people can just run out. And you really need a Ravage kind of setup for that combination, and that's still a ways off until we see that commitment. So I think Mavis just kind of accepts it's best if he dies for the team. Doesn't really matter too much. He's not worth too much, and he might die again here.
He may, as Mavis is going to be surrounded by Ace 12 and the Skeletons. Be another kill to go the way of Lilgun. 5-1 already. This new draft in Game 2 certainly looking a lot better than Game 1 did. Polaris, I mean, all they can do right now is just kind of bide their time and just keep trying to get that farm up. Try to catch up. But you look at that net worth graph, John. I mean, you've got Force doing a great job on the Tide, but that's about it. Apart from that, every other core from Lilgun is at the top.
The aggression's just lined up well, and you mentioned it, Micah. Even if this game goes slow, 4-2-3 can play the jungle a little bit faster with just the Vampiric Spirit Skeletons. And they clear out the jungle really fast. He's at level 7 now on 4-2-3, still keeping the value point for reincarnation available if need be. Force is trying to get some pressure bot, but without the heroes to commit, a push can't come out rather quick here as well from Polaris, as the numbers need to be up there. So they can't even open up the map a little bit more for that Deuce, and it's just allowing Lilgun to build up a lot more. Look at Kishka, just keeping watch in that jungle, ensuring that Natsumi's just not very safe or secure in farming by himself.
Well, they're going to try and go after this Ember Illusion. They do get him very nicely. So a bit of gold going to the way of Sanctity. That 32 gold to be exact. That's all they get though for Lilgun here. So going back to your point, John, I mean, Kishka obviously very confident on the Spirit Breaker just roaming that dire jungle and has no fear in the world. He's just a tanky SB. He's got the Bulldoze available, and now they might even try to make a play onto Lelouch. But do they really have enough lockdown? With Ace 12 around with the silence you just made, they'll try to charge in with the Inkswell out. Can they get it done? Oh, the bash comes out. Oh, that's just terrible. The lucky bash from Kishka just to make sure he had no chance.
But yeah, just securing that kill for the side of Lilgun. The aggression is starting to come true, which is great news. They're pinning down the one hero that needs to buy them space as well. The Ember is going to be set to make these plays. Not really the Tide. So keeping Lelouch down this game is going to hurt that mid-game momentum that Polaris wants to build up to buy that space for the Deuce. And Lilgun understand that. They're just smoking up, looking to sneak down bot. They take the top tower while that happens as well. And they're in position to defend their bot or just look to punish someone farming that triangle area.
I mean, absolutely. Sanctity spots out the stacks again. This little quad stack there on the Ancients. They don't have the resources to take them out yet. So they charge down bot instead and try to do with Force another time. Stuns will be out. Bashes are there. Force, he's going to try and make his way out. Up towards the north, but Sanctity, he's got the link out. Very hard to see him get away from this one. And he won't. It's 4-2-3, able to pick up his second kill of the game on the Wraith King. And it does seem like they are going to fully commit here for this tier 1 bottom tower.
They've got the push coming through, and they've got the damage, they've got the numbers, the trade for the tower. Polaris not in a good position to defend. They do have Ravage, but it's still a ways off from the respawn. The tower just melts with the output right now from 4-2-3, so gonna have to surrender another tier 2. They only have their mid left. They are buying space out for Natsumi to farm, and he's still doing a decent enough job of building up, but it's a deuce. It takes a long time. They have to be careful in that triangle, though.
They do, as Ace 12 tries to set up for some more, but he's going to be forced to back off as forced. He does have the Ravage again. There's a big group up here from Lilgun as 3. Sanctity may get caught out, though, as the Purge is there. Sanctity, he's already dropping low, but the charge in. Kishka going to go right into the backside, but now the Ravage comes in. Force, he got 4 heroes with that, but Sanctity is not down yet. In fact, Xavius is the first one to drop. Sonic Wave going to take down Lelouch. Sanctity is still on the run. Mavis is trying, but he can't keep up. Oh, he can't keep up, and now they'll turn right back around. Oh, the humanity. That is not what you wanted if you were Polaris. Well, they commit everything, John, but they get absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it looked like a good angle. The Ravage pinning at the end looked pretty nice, but you have nothing on December yet. You just have phase boots. No corrosion, no casual javelin for the right clicks. And that just makes it really easy to burst down Lelouch when he is up front. I think the big issue right now for Polaris is that there's really not much impact from Bloodseeker. He does have level 6 up on Mavis, so Rupture is there to maybe pin a hero down. But overall, their control, their durability is just not there as it was in Game 1, and Lilgun's just managing to beat that against them very nicely. They don't manage to steal away these Ancient stacks, so Natsumi's still going to get that good follow-up gold here for himself, but they know it's happening, and they're always just going to keep an eye on it.
They could intercept at the perfect moment. For now, though, it's only 4-2-3, but the teammates are slowly coming in to try and get there in time, but the creeps are already basically taken. Could still get the big dragons, but they won't feel too confident. Not without the full team. Realizing that Polaris did bring all 5 to make sure Natsumi could safely farm those up. And as you said, John, I mean, one Ancient stack being taken, and suddenly Natsumi's at the top of the net worth board.
Oh yeah, that's all it takes. It's a massive stack, a good influx of gold here for the side of Polaris. Lilgun, this is still a really good position for them. They're 4k up. They've really managed to shut down Lelouch in this game. It's really all down to the Ember being so far behind that Lilgun has this 4k lead. They've still got their own triangle to play with. Polaris hasn't really crossed the river for aggression all too often at all in this game. So it's a much more defensive game for the side of Polaris, and Lilgun's just on the get-go every single time. I think for Lilgun, the next step is going to be eyeing that mid-tier 1. Once you take that, you can invade the top jungle, and you can keep controlling the bottom triangle area a lot easier as well, and start to think about that Roche timing you were mentioning earlier, Mike. No Desolator coming out for 4-2-3 is going for the Blink, so Roche might not be the fastest. With a Razor, with the Skeletons coming through, it still shouldn't take too long even without the Deso. So I think as long as they can maybe start to hammer in on that mid-tier 1, Polaris is going to have a lot of issues in terms of holding on to this map here.
Looking at mid lane. Oh, they're going to find Natsumi. That'll be a great target to get started on. They make the jump in with the Sonic Wave out. It's just so much damage. And they just completely blow him up. Polaris, they try to react fast enough to try and help out, but now they will be the ones to be chased down. They can't even get this Ravage out, and 4-2-3 just slices away at the watermelon that was Force. That'll be another 2 down here for Polaris as Lilgun looking to fight back and forces to a game number 3. We'll move into that T1 mid tower.
And that's the objective they need. Now the top jungle it's open, the triangle it's easier to hold against. Natsumi's farming area is very, very limited. And this Deuce is still a long way from having that big item spike where it just feels strong. It only has the Yasha, Dragonlance, not enough to really be tanky up front yet.
Natsumi.
And he's still not safe here too.
Yeah, he just TP'd, John. He just respawned. He just respawned. Oh boy, that is not good. Yeah, I mean, that's a problem, Jonathan. You know, you just respawned, you just TP'd back to the laning stage, and well, unfortunately he went to the one lane he shouldn't have. As they charge in, Xavier's now going to be targeted as the Inkswell should land, and well, they made the jump in with 11. That'll be 2 more to go down. Now even Lelouch coming in to try and help out, but there's just nobody left to help him out. But you've got Force there with the Ravage, but he's just not in a position where he can really make the jump in. It does feel like Polaris are just in a very defensive position now. Lilgun, however, with a 7k net worth advantage, could certainly keep this pressure up.
They've got everything they could possibly ask for. The blink from 423 is just allowing all of these aggressive plays coming out. They've got another target for the Inkswell, much more durable up front as well for that Inkswell initiation. And Polaris just don't have enough map space to enable both Adusa and an Ember Spirit to kind of catch up here. They're just severely behind the Lelouch, and I think that's the big hurting point for Polaris. They are trying to work onto the Ewells for Lelouch, so he can maybe at least save himself from the silences and some of that hold. But even then, it feels like you have a massive issue in terms of how do you kill off the Wraith King twice when it comes down to it. Like, you don't have an answer for 423 right now.
Charge. Oh, Natsumi, not again. I mean, Bloodright going to be there to zone out Kishka, but in comes the Cavalry 11, able to land the Inkswell. Now the Soulbind out. They've already lost Mavis, and they've got the Medusa trapped up as the Sonic Wave does connect onto two heroes, but Natsumi, he's going to be able to pop the Stone Gaze and make his way out this time around. Still, 423's not done. He has another blink up, and he'll make his way right back into Xavier's to just chip away and take the life of the Shadow Demon. I suppose you save Natsumi, but you lose both supports for that. And Natsumi, he's right back to the Dire base.
Yep, he's just doesn't have anywhere to play. Like, every single time they see that Dusa, they just rush in. They know they're strong enough to pin her down. Not much stats on Natsumi yet. Mana pool isn't that big. HP's not that big. Still level 12. So you're not even maxed out in your mana shield as well. It just makes it really easy for Lilgun to keep running. This is what we were looking for from Lilgun in game 1. Their draft kind of wants to play like this as well, but they're kind of unable to do it here. And
yeah, Mavis. It's that classic support Bloodseeker problem, John. You just can't really do anything. If you're not grouped up around your team, there's just nothing for the Bloodseeker to do. Nethershall? Hello? 11? Thank you, 11. You'll go back for it. Into the Roshan.
Yep. And they don't have the full Deso, but again, they could go for it fast. No, they're going to play it safe. I think they respect the fact that there's a Ravage on Force. They could still kind of sneak their way back in here on Polaris, so they're not going to take that massive risk. And they'll just take the farm while they can. The side of Polaris, speaking of Force, is going back to the Ags. So, as you pointed out earlier, Mike, it's still a good Ags game. It just kind of makes it a bit harder for Polaris to look for the angles to jump back in, because they can't just run up and Ravage now. With all the blinks on hand from Lilgun, it's very hard for the Tide to get that done. So I think they're anticipating a really slow game. They've got to do so. They just want to have a good hold for the high ground and stall this game as much as possible. Luch has to be a bit cautious, though.
Oh, he needs to be, John, because he's gone. He just melts. The charge of the Inkswell, there's just no getting out in time. Xavier's now, he's been caught out. The Fake Grenade can give all the vision necessary, so Xavier's just can't get away in time. Kishka, well, he'll give the kill over to Sanctity as they even look for another. Mavis trying to help out on the Bloodseeker, but there's just no helping. A third kill to go the way of Lilgun. And I think now they could certainly just look to take Roshan. But they might try for that mid T2 tower first.
Yeah, I mean, why not? They've got the Deso up. Doesn't take too long to get this push going. The Skeletons are up and running as well. The Tide Ags is right on time, though. There's some deep push from Force, but it's not going to stop that. They're going to have to surrender another objective on the map. They teleport Natsumi in. They've got Ravage if they want to force this, but it feels a bit difficult. You don't want to risk Natsumi dying again. And this is Lilgun's opening. We're going to take the outpost, go into Roche. Polaris, they're going to smoke. They have Ravage. Just need to find a way to gap close here.
It's a hard team fight to try and go for, but I suppose this is probably your best opportunity in that Roshan pit where they're all clumped up. How do you make your way over? They could certainly delay it and get the vision with the Bloodright, but that's about all they seemingly are able to do. You don't have the mobility for the Ravage. You don't really have any other setup. Apart from Lelouch, but we just haven't heard much from the man in game 2. He's just not having that kind of play we were expecting from game 1. Because now Lilgun, they'll make their way over. Into that dire jungle, and they're going to run right into Natsumi, right into the target they wanted. Stone Gaze was popped, however, and they got all three of them. They got all three petrified up, so Force, he might be able to set up a nice Ravage, but he's being very patient. Into the Ravage they go, onto Sanctity, but he's still surviving, still alive. Yule's up, Natsumi going to get taken down, and again, Sanctity's going to walk away. Lelouch's going to try. They might still get him, or maybe not. He just baits him in. 4-2-3 with a triple kill out on the Wraith King. And Sanctity John just continues to get away with a slither of HP on this Razor.
Yeah, it's just too much tankiness. Like the Yule's to save himself on the edge, taking a lot of damage from Medusa just kind of hurts Natsumi in such a big way. And Polaris just doesn't have the best counterplay. Like, we've got Ravage, their follow-up's really just Blood Right. It's not amazing. The Stone Gaze can help you out, but you don't have damage on Medusa to really use that Stone Form in a big way and turn that fight around. So Lilgun just has all the tools. They take Aegis, 26-2, 12k lead. Polaris stuck between a rock and a hard place. They have no room to farm for Natsumi, but he has to step all the way outside his face to get that build-up. He is going for the Butterfly next on the Medusa. So some of that evasion is going to be very helpful up against the right-click damage of the Razor, of the Wraith King, especially since no one's going for any break item yet or any sort of way of piercing through that evasion. So Natsumi's going to have some tankiness coming in there. My big issue with Polaris is still the fact that, honestly, it just feels like this Bloodseeker does nothing. Right? Like, we were talking about potential combination. It's Ravage, Blood Right, Stone Gaze. And it's just not amazing. Right, like, Blood Right's a good silence, but you're already starting with Ravage. The follow-up silence just means the BKBs could fly afterwards if it hasn't already been popped. Obviously, they're not doing Blood Rage on Natsumi for Mystic Snake, but it feels like something like, you know, something has to come out. You know, they're lacking damage, and that's their only damage amp right now, which is, you know, it's not the best, and it's not as fancy as it once was, but I don't know. We're seeing the Crystallis instead for Natsumi. Daedalus switch up, so instead of the Butterfly, just wants the damage to come in. That can be helpful again. It just means he's going to be very, very vulnerable up front. And we've already seen Natsumi just melt. The Daedalus is not going to do a lot to stop him from just dying to a couple of hits from the enemy heroes on Lilgun.
Certainly not, John. I mean, we continue to see 4-2-3 just one-shotting people. It's not even close. He just jumps in and gets the one-shot off every single time. And there goes your tier 2 top tower now. So only one outer tower left standing for Polaris Esports. I say that probably won't be for too long either, considering how this game's gone. You've still got the Aegis up for another 3 minutes on Sanctity, so unless they're able to find a way to pick him off on his own, chances are Lilgun are probably going to try and make a high ground play with this. It's just a matter of whether they want to go after the bottom tier 2 tower first or not. Seems like they are going to make their way over to try and address this bot lane. You did have Natsumi split pushing with the Medusa. He'll just TP out immediately, of course. It's very hard to see what you can do. I mean, Polaris, maybe they could hope to hold high ground with the Ags on Force, but it just doesn't feel like it's going to be quite enough.
No, it's a lot of pressure on Force. There's a refresh coming out here for a Razor sooner rather than later. He queued it up a while ago. It looks like Sanctity just wants the Lincolns instead for protection. That's fair enough. I think the Demonic Purge has been causing a couple of issues in the chase. They've got the BKB up now on 4-2-3, so he can really just commit up front if they want to. I don't know if Polaris has enough. They have Blood Right, they have the Ags Gush, so high ground hold, D-Shove is really strong with Medusa as well. But they're not gaining enough farm from the stalling game. You know, they're going to need to stall for a very long time to get to the point where Natsumi feels really big. Mind you, Natsumi's not too far behind, 2k behind 4-2-3. Considering how bad this game has been for Polaris, Natsumi has been keeping up in gold pretty well. And he switches again. So this time it's a Silver Edge. They're going to have a break. They're going to have some good damage coming out from Natsumi. There's the potential to just kind of invis away, but up against a Spirit Breaker, I don't think that's really feasible. So it's still tough in terms of looking at that for survivability. Bit of a chase up top. Kishka's just playing tag with Force, has the rough idea as to where Force is, so could be a big kill here.
I mean, now they definitely know. As Kishka gonna try and get that vision back up before Force does decide to TP. Just pop the bulldoze, but Force, he has nowhere further to go. That'll mean Sanctity is able to make his way over. Nobody to come and try and help out Force. In the meantime, Xavius does drop down to the bot lane. They do get the Tide. Lelouch even going down to the bot lane on the Ember. So just a complete mess across the map here for Polaris. And, well, Lelouch, he was tipping last game, John. Looks like 11. He's going to get the tips out this game.
Oh, yeah. They're feeling it now on Lilgun. And Mike, you know, I gotta say, there's a dream that's about to come true if 3 kills come out here for Lilgun, Mike.
Well, they're going to find one, it looks like, as 423's made the jump in, but Natsumi, he proves to be a little bit too tanky. See if Lilgun does ruin it for you, Jonathan. Yeah, they get one death. It's down the toilet, unfortunately.
No. Yeah, let's see. They've got the power onto the high ground here. Polaris still have Ravage on a respawn. Again, they're D-shoved with Bloodright, with Adusa, with Ags on Tide is pretty darn strong. So actually committing for the push is going to take a little bit longer, and you do see that tier 3 still live. Aegis does fire, so they've stalled out well enough on Polaris to at least take that out of the equation. It's still an issue of them bleeding out in the map here. The build-up's just too slow in Natsumi. Lelouch has not been able to catch up at all. Still the bottom net worth core here, Mike. In stark contrast to his game 1 on the Ember. So, you need a lot more items to get these heroes online. If they can stall for, let's say, 15 minutes for the side of Polaris, I think that's the point where you get some big items that you can start to bring some of that fight back. It's going to take a long time for them to stall that way, and I don't think Lilgun's going to give them that opportunity either.
Well, they've got a Silver Edge now up on Natsumi. Problem is he has no buyback, so if they end up dying right now, it's going to be rather problematic because they've already lost Xavius, and now they're going for a bit more. Mavis, he does get caught out on the Bloodseeker.
One more?
That's going to be both supports going down. One more kill to make johnxfire happy with the 3-2-2. Can they get it? Lelouch, no, he's going to remnant out. They're going to have to wait, and so will you, Jonathan. It's not time yet.
It's so close. 31-2. The reverse 3-2-2. Almost there. You rarely see this one, Mike. You know, it's such a treat when this one comes out, because how often do you get a 3-2-2 score? Not much. Polaris, of course, wouldn't want that.
Hold on a minute.
Gonna be holding on. Yeah.
How are you going to get so passionate about analyzing the 3-2-2 score? And when we're casting Dota, you just sound like you're about to fall asleep half the time.
It's dank memes. Dank memes keep me alive, Mike. You know, that's how it is. It's all about the memes. Still, Polaris. I mean, you're right? The Silver Edge is out. It's a good amount of damage coming out in Natsumi. He's way too squishy for these engagements. 1.5k HP, 1.4k mana. It's not enough. Doesn't even have the maxed out still engage. Scotty's going to be coming out next. That's going to help the cause. They are making jumps up top, applying pressure. Can't really pin down Lelouch just with a quap. So 11's not going to be able to tip him this time, but that map pressure is still there. Like, the timings for Ember is still a ways off. Now, Polaris are, again, to be fair, holding high ground really well, and the item flow for Natsumi is not too bad. Just has to be careful.
Yeah, he does. He's been kind of just knocked back here by Kishka. In fact, he's locked down and completely out of mana. Force to help out. They do at least kill off Kishka. And they've ruined the dream for you, Jonathan. Kishka's ruined it.
Kishka, he had his eyes on the prize there, Mike. He saw what he thought was a free kill. He saw he could get the scoreboard going, and now he's ruined. You know, it's absolutely ruined. Polaris now getting a spike, a nice big spike their way. You know, maybe some motivation, like, we've ruined the 3-2-2. We can now hold high ground forever. I think that's what we should expect. The turret in the Medusas almost online. I mean, it's been basically a game of shoving in waves. And for Polaris, shoving out waves. And all of that gold is just going to Natsumi. At some point, this net worth lead of 18k is going to be boiling down to the fact that you have two poor cores on Polaris. You've got a very poor Tide and a very poor Ember, but you've got a pretty well-farmed Dusa. And once that Scotty's up, I think that's when you start to feel the effect of the Dusa not being completely shut down. It's going to have Again, a lot more HP, a lot more to throw out in these team fights, although not Natsumi again.
As you say, John, Natsumi, he does get caught. Disruption, though, going to buy a bit of time, but how are you going to save him? He'll try to run. Forced up to the low ground, going to be more than enough. Natsumi barely able to survive, but I can't say the same for Xavius. He does drop his Kishka. He's still charging forward. Manta Dodge is there, though, and Kish is going to give another kill to the way of Polaris.
Oh my
Kishka, he's still upset about that last death jump.
Well, he's not helping. He's not helping. It's 32-4 now. We're 2 off because of that Kishka. It's still, I mean, he saw the opportunity to kill off Natsumi. He is fairly well formed in Spiritbreaker, not enough to dive tier 4s there. Just really optimistic, and Polaris finding some of this punishment coming through. I mean, this is certainly a second wind for their side, because I'm repeating my points here, but Natsumi's not too far behind. He's only 2k behind a Wraith King. That's not a major item anymore at this point in the game. You know, that's literally the Hyperstone 423 has. That's where their net worth difference lies right now. So your Deuce is still keeping. I don't know about the Butterfly though. I feel like the Scotty would have been much more solid in terms of durability, but I guess all in on damage and evasion to stay alive isn't too bad of an idea here.
Yeah. I mean, my thing is as well, though. I mean, I realize that 2k is not too big of a deal, but you don't really have that one-hit potential that 423 has, right, on the Wraith King. So every time I look at a Medusa, it's kind of an expectation that you're going to be able to just completely out-farm the enemy if you expect to be able to carry yourself through this game, which just got a little bit harder because now there's an AC up on 423, so a hell of a lot more armor for his whole team. And it seems like they're just going to wait out the next Roshan, which is back up in about 25 seconds. Unfortunately, no power rune to spawn as Roshan does come up, so could be a double damage, but won't be there in time.
Yep. Gonna be rather, well, anticlimactic without the traditional DD spawn. Still shouldn't be too bad. Lilgun don't really need it to clear out the Roshan. Polaris don't have information in that area, so they're not going to be able to contest very well. I think they're just going to have to use this time to keep farming, keep building up, try to hit those item spikes. They spot out the Roche again. Not going to take too long with the damage output of 423. Polaris are just going to have to take what they can get. And their high ground hold again has been pretty darn good. The early ags from Force is paying off for this part of the game. Blood Right, Stone, Mystic Snake coming out, split shots, really easy to hold high ground forever. Lilgun need to find that opening, take out a key hero, and start applying some pressure on those towers if they want to close this game out soon. I mean, they don't need to end it soon, but you don't want to give Polaris that opportunity to hit second win with a Deuce here.
You certainly don't. If they do make their way over through that dire triangle, Lilgun, they're going to run into Mavis again, so he does break the smoke. Sonic Wave way off the mark. Mavis able to force staff away and just TP out. In fact, they all just TP out. None of them want to try and force this fight. Is it Lush? He may be caught, but he's got Lincoln's back up in time, so the stun is going to be there, and he does end up dropping. So a very nice kill for Lilgun, regardless of whether they miss out on the others. They still get Lelouch. They might be able to just force a buyback in time.
So much more.
Yep, they have this big opportunity to go up. I don't think the Ember Kill's the biggest, though. As long as Force is alive, it should be okay, but be careful. Kishka.
Kishka, yeah, I mean, Kishka's done it again, Jonathan. For the third time, he does end up going down, but at least they get Mavis, they've got Xavius, and now they can go back in onto Force to get the buybacks out, at least from the Shadow Demon. Force, he'll pop the Ravage, they've almost got that Wraith King, they get the Reincarnation Light, but can they do it a second time? It doesn't feel like it as 4-2-3. He's in again, onto the Medusa this time around. Natsumi, just trying to get back home, but there's no home left to go back to, as they just destroy him. He can commit the buyback if he so wishes. I think they might need it if they wish to defend this tier 3. They are going to take another life away from this Wraith King. So Aegis gone, Reincarnation gone. Again though, I don't think they have the bodies to try and deal with the third life.
No, it looks like they're just going to hold on to Natsumi's buyback, realizing that perhaps without the Tidehunter and the Ravage, and without the Stone Gates, it's going to be very hard to expect that Lucy to just stand up front and get damage off. And they're also really close to the Butterfly. Maybe they're hoping that they can at least get the Butterfly for this next engagement to respawn.
Lelouch, close call there. The Wraithfire Blast was soon to come in from 4-2-3. On the brighter side for Polaris Esports, they are unable to go for Megas here for Lilgun. Still gonna go after that tier 2 bottom tower if they want to finish off and get the Mega creeps up. Still, 2 racks advantage is nothing to scoff about. Lilgun, I'm sure, will be very happy on Kishka. Good to see he found the S button, Jonathan. He's finally stopped his charge for once.
Yeah, he's been all in this entire game. 3 of the 5 kills on Polaris has been on that Spirit Breaker, which is
there it
actually
is.
pretty good news for Lilgun. You know, holding on. And yeah, there it is. Push is going to be a lot easier. Just need to take out the bot tier 2. Not going to take too long. Polaris, they are going all in here, Mike. Again, the butterfly is being held here by Natsumi. No buyback gold. I'm very close to getting that last quarter staff. Is it going to be enough? I don't think so. But that's the decision Polaris has made. They don't figure that Natsumi with buyback will do anything anyway. So they'll just try with a butterfly, see if the damage will help them. But refresh is up for Razor. So static link on Medusa is probably always going to come out now.
Yeah, it'll be the final attempt as Disruption does save the Medusa for now, but they've already jumped Xavius in the backline and a big Sonic Wave out from 11. They'll just chase down Force, make sure the Ravage never comes out, and they've got him. He does have buyback though. If they could buy back on the time, they will. So Natsumi now in trouble, completely out of mana, and he's just gone. No buyback gold available. Force will eventually make it in, but he won't have anyone to pump out the damage, and they're just going to call GG. That'll be game 3 on the way between Lilgun and Polaris. And you've really got to give it to Lilgun, John. They didn't let that game 1 get to them.
They held strong. They bounced back mentally after a one-sided game 1. They make game 2 one-sided for their way. Polaris, I think they got kind of baited in that draft, Mike. They went for the Bloodseeker. You know, they were expecting to run it off lane, run the Tide support instead. With a Razor coming out and then a Wraith King to close out, they're like, all right, we've got to run this Tide off lane to shut down the Wraith King. We're going to be having to have Bloodseeker pause 5, which just had no synergy. Like, he had Ravage Bloodright. That's just not enough. It's not a very strong combination on its own as well, or even Bloodright and Stone Gaze. Like, they lack control. Their one hold from their support was really Disruption. Beyond that, like, Mavis had no contributions. I'm not even sure how many earn charges he got in that game, but he was just not contributing. And I think that's the issue with a Bloodseeker 5. Outside of any team but SMG, I just don't like this pick. And for Polaris, they couldn't make it work. So we'll see if they change things up for the last time. But Lilgun, again, they go with a bit of a different draft. Wraith King from 4-3 just hits its spikes and just manages to run everyone down.
And let's hope game 3 is actually a close game, John, because both games have been pretty one-sided thus far between both these two teams. So we'll see if both teams can get a more even draft together and something not too snowbally. And of course, we'll be back for game number 3 after a short 10-minute break. We'll see you then.